Picture this. It's 1904, New York City. The air is thick with the smell of coal smoke and the clatter of horse-drawn carriages. A horse, a beautiful brown trotter named Jim Key, is on a stage, and the crowd is absolutely spellbound. Why? Because this horse can read, write, and do arithmetic. No, you didn't mishear me. This isn't a fairy tale. It's the incredible and almost forgotten true story of beautiful Jim Key and the man who believed in him. Our story begins not with the horse but with the man, Dr. William Bill Key. Bill was a former slave, a self-taught veterinarian, and a natural-born showman with a deep, almost spiritual connection to animals. Born into slavery in Tennessee, Bill learned the arts of healing and horse trading from his masters, but his true genius was his own. After the Civil War, he built a life for himself, running a successful horse hospital, a racetrack, and even a hotel. But his greatest legacy would come from a place of near tragedy. In his stable, a scrawny, sickly, and awkward-looking colt was born. The mother was a beautiful Arabian mare, but the father was a scruffy trotter. The colt was so frail that everyone advised Bill to put him down. He had club feet, his legs were like stilts, and he just looked wrong. But Bill Key saw something else. He saw a flicker of intelligence, a spark of life. He refused to give up on the little foal. He named him Jim. For months, Bill nursed Jim with a devotion that was almost paternal. He created special braces for the colt's legs and fed him by hand. He didn't just train Jim, he educated him. Bill believed that kindness and patience were the keys to unlocking an animal's mind, not whips and force, which was the standard practice at the time. He spent hours every day in the store with Jim, talking to him, teaching him the alphabet with wooden blocks, just like you teach a child. Slowly, incredibly, something amazing happened. Jim began to respond. He wasn't just mimicking, he was learning. Bill would ask him to fetch a block with a specific letter, and Jim would pick it out with his mouth. Then came numbers. Bill would ask, "Jim, what's 2 plus 2?" And Jim would tap his hoof 4 times. It sounds impossible, right? But thousands upon thousands of people would soon witness it for themselves. Bill started small, showing off Jim's talents at local fairs in Tennessee. Word began to spread like wildfire. This wasn't some simple circus trick. Jim could spell names from the audience. He could identify colors. He could even make change from a cash register, picking out the correct coins to give back to a customer. Skeptics were everywhere. They accused Bill of using signals of fraud, of every trick in the book. So, Bill and Jim took their show on the road to prove everyone wrong. They traveled across the country, and their fame exploded. In 1897, they got their big break at the Tennessee Centennial Exposition. Initially, they were relegated to a small, out-of-the-way tent, but the crowds for Jim were so massive they caused a human traffic jam. The organizers had no choice but to move them to the main stage. This is where the story gets even more incredible. The president of the American Humane Association, a man named George T. Angell, heard about this educated horse and was deeply skeptical. He sent a team of the nation's top veterinarians and professors from Harvard University to investigate. They put Bill and Jim through the most rigorous tests imaginable. They separated Bill from Jim, had strangers give commands, and tried everything to expose the hoax. And what did they find? They concluded, officially, that it was no trick. Jim Key was, in their words, an educated horse. They couldn't explain how, but they couldn't deny what they saw. This endorsement was a game changer. George Angell and the Humane Association threw their full support behind Bill and Jim, not just as an act, but as a movement. Their message was simple and revolutionary: be kind to animals. At every show, children were invited to take the Jim Key pledge, promising never to be cruel to an animal. Millions of kids signed up, forming Jim Key bands of mercy all across America. Bill Key, a black man in the height of the Jim Crow era, and his horse became the biggest celebrities in the country, promoting a message of compassion. Think about the context here. This was a time of deep racial segregation and widespread animal cruelty. Yet, on stage, Bill Key was not just a performer. He was a respected professor and his student was a horse. They shattered barriers wherever they went. They performed at the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair for 9 straight months, drawing in over 2 million people. Their top ticket price was $1, a fortune back then, yet people paid it willingly. They were offered the modern equivalent of millions of dollars to sell Jim, but Bill always refused. His bond with the horse was priceless. Companies lined up to have Jim endorse their products. There were Jim Key toys, Jim Key books, even a Jim Key song. He was a national phenomenon. More than that, he was a symbol of hope. He showed the world what could be achieved with patience and kindness, challenging long-held beliefs about both animal intelligence and racial prejudice. Sadly, all good things must come to an end. After nearly a decade on the road, Bill and Jim retired back to their home in Shelbyville, Tennessee. Jim lived out his final years in a comfortable pasture, a beloved local legend. When he passed away in 1912, the whole town mourned. The local schools even closed for the day. Bill Key died a few years earlier, in 1909, a wealthy and respected man who had achieved the unimaginable. So why have so many of us never heard this story? After Bill and Jim were gone, their incredible tale just faded away. The records were lost, the memories dimmed, and one of the most heartwarming and inspiring stories in American history was almost completely forgotten. It's a powerful reminder of how easily history can be misplaced. The story of beautiful Jim Key and Dr. Bill Key isn't just about a smart horse. It's a story about breaking barriers. It's a story about the power of kindness in a world that was often cruel. It's about a man who saw potential where no one else did and, through love and patience, showed the world something truly magical. A former slave and his horse teaching a nation about compassion. If that's not an astonishing piece of history, I don't know what is. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as amazing as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible tales from the past. Let me know in the comments what you think. See you next time.